Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host, Chris Gorog, brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. Chris is personable and opens up with our guests on issues we all would like to see addressed. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
Welcome to another show of New Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery, and today we have from RiskIQ, Steve Ginty. I get that right, sir? Your last name there?
Ginty. Sorry.
Ginty. Yeah, I got it. So, all right. So, Mr. Ginty, can you give us a little bit about kind of your background? And I think you're the director for the threat intelligence piece, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So can you give us a little bit of your background of how you managed to get to that point?
Sure. Yeah. So I would say kind of long, winding road. Not the traditional IT background. I ended up getting a degree in finance and kind of more of a numbers person, and then realized I really didn't want to go into finance, and so I got a degree in public policy in the DC area, focusing on national security, and then needed a job and started working for Northrop Grumman, which was doing IT for IT contracting for the State Department. And I think at that time I was like, I don't want to do this, but kind of really dug into it and was excited to kind of learn the aspects of IT security and what that group was doing at the time, and slowly worked my way through a bunch of different random jobs, but found that I could apply my kind of analytical skills from my finance degree as an investigator. Right. Yeah. Yep, and looking at kind of piecing things together, and really started to enjoy the threat intelligence and analysis side of the industry, and worked my way into working with RiskIQ by creating a platform called Passive Total that allowed people to piece together things in network infrastructure and kind of conduct investigations. And RiskIQ acquired Passive Total in 2015, and I've been working with them. Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, it's good to meet you, and welcome to the show. And so, so RiskIQ, I mean, we're talking about threat intelligence. What exactly is RiskIQ all about?
Sure. Good question. The company has been around since 2009, and it has been focused on kind of crawling the internet. And the goal of the company originally was to kind of take a snapshot of what's happening on the internet to help organizations answer questions about bad things taking place. And I think the original kind of purview was malvertising and kind of bad advertising inside of websites. But as the company grew, kind of the use cases grew, and we like to think of ourselves as a big data company. We're correlating information on the internet across, crawling the web, across scanning the IPv4 space, collecting who is, passive DNS data, all to kind of build products on top of that data collection to help customers answer questions. And the two core areas we focus on are threat intelligence: who's targeting me, what is the infrastructure on the internet they're using, what do they look like, and how can I proactively investigate and block those bad actors or activity that's targeting me. And then something we call attack surface management or digital footprint. What are my assets that are internet connected? What is my attack surface on the broader internet? And what are the kind of potential avenues of attack those bad actors could leverage to gain access to my organization?
Well, awesome. Yeah. And this is commercial, or is this for residential, your individual person, or both? Or what is it used for?
For the most part, good question. For the most part, our customers are Global 2000, specifically on the attack surface management side. It started with organizations like large financial institutions, groups doing large mergers and acquisitions that have a sprawling kind of IT infrastructure that they need to manage. Yeah. But as we've grown, we've kind of broadened our appeal to to a broad swath of organizations that want to kind of help triage incidents inside of their SIM, or moving to kind of automating actions in a SOAR type platform via our threat investigation platform. So we have a broad set of customers, but I would say mostly commercial enterprise is the user base. Our threat intelligence platform is available to anyone who wants to register. So we do have a lot of just individual analysts and people interested in digging around the data. But for our largest customer base, it's kind of Global 2000.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to take a small pause there and take a break, and we'll be right back from listen to a message from our sponsor.
Blockframe Technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Welcome back. This is New Cyber Frontier, your host, Timothy Montgomery, and I'm here with Steve Ginty.
Yep.
Got it. And we were just, before the break, we were sitting there talking about the company that he works for is called RiskIQ, with threat intelligence and a scraper, I guess, if you will. Basically, it's something that crawls the internet and helps to support protection against those pieces of malware that come in and try to attack you using the internet or a browser-based product, I guess you could say, web application or something of that sort, that possibly could harm you. So, as we were talking, you were talking about corporations and how this product actually got interwoven in a lot of the corporations. I remember, I think one of the things you had said earlier that we were chatting was Microsoft had picked up on you. Can you elaborate a little more on that for me, for our audience?
Sure. So as of last week, we are a subsidiary of Microsoft, and we've been working and partnering with them for a while to help them leverage our data collection and capability. And one of the areas we kind of collaborated on earlier in the year was around the big Exchange vulnerability that was announced in March of this year. And so at the time, Microsoft had released patches and noted that there was active exploitation of a vulnerability inside of their Exchange systems, and was urging individuals to patch immediately. And this was applicable to their on-premise versions of Exchange. And so as a kind of internet scanning company, we saw that and we kind of alerted our customer base of where those Exchange servers were inside of their digital footprints and their environments. But we also took the opportunity to leverage our global collection and understand the full scope of the problem. And so as we started to look at the data that we collected, we had fingerprinted over 400,000 Exchange servers on the internet. When we started to look at that corpus of Exchange servers, about 100,000 of them at the time, it was a couple days after they had announced the patches, were still vulnerable to this incident and hadn't been patched. And so we started working hand in hand with the team over there to proactively notify organizations that they had kind of these servers that were vulnerable on the internet. And the reason it was kind of it was important is Microsoft saw these espionage actors that they track under the moniker Hafnium exploiting the vulnerability. We're noticing that kind of cycle of vulnerability exploitation rapidly increase. So I think it was about a week between them announcing the vulnerability and patches, and a week later the ransomware gangs were in on leveraging this new vulnerability. Yeah, and so even if you were I'm not worried about it, I don't. Espionage isn't a thing I have to worry about.
Right. Mom and pop at home, so I don't need to worry about that.
Exactly. How quickly it it kind of compressed into, oh gosh, everybody needs to really action this.
Yeah.
Was what really stuck out to me, because normally I would say, maybe 2-3 years ago, you had some time, right? Now it seems like the time to take action has to be so much faster.
Yeah, you got to be preventive more now than ever.
Yeah. So. And so it was a really good, it was a great collaboration, and obviously it was a good kind of showing of our capability and how we can proactively help their customer base and and kind of secure the internet as well. And so we are now a part of Microsoft and excited to do even bigger things.
Well, congratulations! There you go. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, getting picked up by Microsoft is a pretty big deal, actually. I know they always are looking extensively at different companies and smaller companies to take them on and merge. A lot of things in the past I can think of. Yammer was one of those companies. Media content management, I think it was. Some of the other things in Microsoft. So if they're really looking highly of you, they really think that there's a seriousness in why they need it. So I mean, it means that what kind of work you've done in the past has been publicly shown, and everyone's always staring at what you're doing. So the critics will be critics, right?
Yeah, and I think it's obviously 2020 and kind of the remote work environments that everybody's in right now, and
definitely
the acceleration of kind of the move to the cloud and their Azure business. Enabling both that kind of cloud computing environment, but also people aren't getting rid of these legacy systems overnight, and so that has to be supported. You have to understand where they exist on the internet, and there seems to be always a vulnerability coming out for this infrastructure that you just have to have that kind of awareness to be proactive.
Yeah, you're right. It brings to mind just the nuances of going out on the internet today, and what kind of people are so vulnerable. It seems like there's no real protection. So something like this would actually support being able to go beyond the walls of the corporate inner circle or boundary, I guess you could say, to go out and do some analysis, some intelligence gathering, if you will, about what type of digital footprints out there that the company or corporation might have. And I'm pretty sure you could probably even get down to the levels of an individual if you really wanted to start looking at it that way, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, with that, this type of tool, and I'm assuming, yes, it is a tool you would install like an application. If those out there not quite sure what that means, but it's just like installing installing an application for to do WordSoft or some word processing like Word or Office 365, things like that. So analysis wise, it would go out and start setting up tools and looking at your network and doing an nmap of some kind and start looking analysis outside of that. And I'm sure it's got its databases and libraries that it preferences, and I'm sure there's other databases and things it connects to knowledge base wise. So I'm pretty sure it's a pretty hefty tool there.
Yeah, so we've kind of taken the nmap capability, the similar capabilities, and we've ported it to we've built our own infrastructure to do that type of scanning. Yeah. So we do all of our scanning via data centers we own or cloud environments that we've deployed. And so we're kind of moving that capability outside of the organization's responsibility and taking that on for them. We do all the scanning. They just tell us what needs to, what they want to defend, and we tell them what we know they should defend. Yeah. And then we deploy our technology to scan for them. And that's kind of, and then analysts that I work with and others, we deploy signatures similar to how, Nmap or zgrab or these other tools, look across the internet, to then fingerprint and identify technologies and services, and even vulnerabilities, to be able to display that back to the customer. And you kind of brought up a point earlier of applicable across a broad swath of organizations. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we saw in the last year or two is, while the capability has been very good for the Global 2000, we've started to look at ways that we can help organizations that have smaller security staffs or don't have as many people to focus on this problem. Yeah. So that we can surface information about a smaller organization's digital footprint based on our own collection and insights, and that they don't have to manage it and understand it. And so we're trying to kind of simplify the process so that it is more approachable to a broad swath of user.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, especially those that would necessarily need something for protection, but doesn't quite understand what that might break down into. Digital footprint. I know a lot of people out there are probably curious if they don't already know. What is that in context? What does that break down into?
Yeah, it's a good question. So from our standpoint, we're looking at kind of all aspects of of internet collection. So if you're a larger corporation, maybe what IP blocks you own, what ASNs are associated with you, domains, hosts, SSL certificates to secure your websites, mobile applications, really anything that is associated with your organization on the internet. And we bucket into multiple areas. Things you own, dependencies, especially nowadays with cloud computing. What are those services you depend on, but maybe don't directly own? Yeah. Like Azure, AWS, et cetera. Yeah, and then kind of exactly. Yeah. And then rogue type things for larger organizations. Brand impersonation websites or domains that are registered to look like a major corporation. Or maybe malicious, mobile applications. What are those things that are trying to be like you in order to target maybe your customer base? And so that we bucket all three of those things together to kind of give you a picture of what we refer to as your digital footprint. What do you look like to the internet? Yeah,
to the outside world. Well, that's good information. So we're going to take another break right quick, and we will be right back with Steve after we hear a break from our sponsors.
Blockframe Technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Okay, welcome back with New Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery. I'm here with Steve, and Steve is the Director of Intelligence, Threat Intelligence, of RiskIQ. And before the break, we were chatting about digital footprints and kind of what that means on this type of tool going out and taking a snapshot of that type of footprint and bringing it back in analysis, and then being able to report that back to the individual organization. So really great tool. Microsoft seems to think it was important. So kudos there. With this threat and idea today we use the internet like I brush my teeth every morning, or some of us actually probably use the internet more than that, right? That type of thing. So it's so common to us, right? In other words, how did we ever live without it? Basically, it's replacing everything. So in the future of this idea, as we get further and further down the lanes, I'm sure that this thing will probably broaden in scope. And is there anything that you see in the future that this type of tool would, not only what it's doing right now, but further use of it and expanding on it? Can you elaborate on anything like that?
Yeah, I think as you look at, I mentioned earlier, we're seeing organizations kind of transform from the traditional, IT infrastructure controlled, walled off, to a much broader adoption of cloud, software, as a service type applications, zero trust models of deploying applications in the cloud and protecting them, and so we're seeing the digital footprint actively expand, year over year, and we don't really see that slowing down. There's two kind of areas that we focus on right now that we think are going to be important going into the future. And one, the first thing is situational awareness, right? The IT environment is rapidly evolving for organizations, and it can be hard to keep up. So we try to provide organizations with that situational awareness as your digital footprint expands. We're taking new assets we identify, we're inventorying them, we're handing them over to you with insights. But we're also keenly aware that that as the internet expands, and our use of it expands, that this is going to be important. Things that we're thinking about are obviously 5G technology, and how that is going to rapidly change, internet connected devices, or expand internet connected devices.
Yeah, the Internet of Things, right?
We're already seeing that, right?
That's right.
You're seeing IoT devices that are getting round up into botnets because of poor security.
Millions of them that are just connecting every day. It just expands infinitely, almost, right?
Exactly. And organizations are deploying these things because of convenience for their customers, for their employees, and they shouldn't stop doing that because it's probably going to be good for business. But there are security implications that come with deploying those devices, and we see that as being core to our kind of strategy going forward. There's going to be a larger and ever expanding footprint. That footprint is going to become less cohesive or harder to manage because you may not own it all. There may be a lot more dependencies in the future. And you have to be able to provide, risk assessments and situational awareness, up the range from a technical level through director to a CISO up to the CEO and board, about how, this technology transformation and new threats are impacting your organization. And so, we see ourselves as a tool that can provide that situational awareness and answer those questions for security operations centers and risk managers, so that they can better inform, the business.
Well, that's awesome. I was thinking in my mind, what if, how does this something like this get intertwined with the suite of things that I have on my own laptop as an individual sitting at home, trying to get an analysis of what does my vectors or threat, paths look like to the outside world in. So, even a tool like this would definitely do people good on an individual basis, let alone the organization's basis. So it'd be interesting to see just how far what happens in the future. I'm sure expanding forever, right?
Yep, and and kind of the idea has always been to solve the problem in an easier manner, right?
Yeah.
We're especially from an analyst and a technologist standpoint, we take larger, harder problems to kind of wrap your mind around, and try to distill them down to repeatable events that we can make more consumable to an end user. That end user could be a very technical threat analyst. It could be a security operations analyst. It could be a CISO. It could be hopefully one day via Microsoft. Small businesses, my parents, whoever. Right?
Yeah.
How do we take this intelligence and enable other people who maybe don't know that they
have no idea what they look like out there. So I know there's curiosity for many people thinking, okay, how did they get my name, and how did they know, and where did that come from, and how did I get on these lists that they keep calling me or texting me, that type of stuff. They're always, I'm sure, I'm wondering. I get hit with it too. I'm not vulnerable even if I understand what's happening. I'm still getting smacked with it, and then, of course my wife's always asking me, and jeez.
Exactly. How did this happen?
Yeah, I got family calling me. How did this happen? And it's like, just like was the pipeline that got hit there. So the analysis there was they had some pretty bad controls measures in place, or didn't have any at all in place. And so my thought was, where's the CISO in all this? We were hearing from the CEO a lot, but we weren't really hearing from the cybersecurity chief so much on it. So.
Yeah, and it seemed, I would say there's a larger awareness, right now in the public too, about cybersecurity. Obviously, with a lot of these attacks that are taking place.
Yeah.
But even in my mind, the pace is so rapidly evolved, and it's like every week I'm going from a different thing to a different thing, right? And so you're just kind of constantly, battling the changing environment, which keeps it interesting. I like that kind of dynamic nature.
Sure.
But
it makes my job that much more, right? But for the rest of the world and feeling some of the nuances of a threat all the time, I'm sure it bewilders people, and there's fear and things like that evolving from thinking that you're always constantly being plagued with something. If you look at the totality of the amount of pings that hit certain agencies in the government every day of the week, every minute, it's some crazy awful amount. constant trying to get in. And those threat players, I mean, they're usually outside the United States most of the time. And it's curious to me when we're going to put something in place that stops them at the front door of the United States, inside the United States, versus letting them get all the way to the front door of the agency before it stops. And so
it's a big game. It's a big game of whack-a-mole, right?
Yeah.
And kind of cat and mouse, right? We find their tactics and techniques, and we find ways around them, and then they figure out that we've found them, and they evolve. And so that kind of that back and forth is
it's the cat and mouse.
It makes it a little more dynamic and a little more difficult sometimes, right? But I think there's definitely a realization that this is an issue, and I think we're going to start to see larger national policy attempt to help. And I think you're seeing that already out of CISA and DHS, where they're being very proactive in publishing information around ransomware and working with with partners in the private sector to help get this information to the right people.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Yep. That's really positive to have that back and forth between the private sector and the government to help kind of mitigate some of these larger issues.
Yeah, you're right. They are expanding on the capabilities that DHS has in cybersecurity, and I think the administration currently is focused solely on trying to expand the abilities of the government in cybersecurity at this point. So lots of attention being given to cybersecurity these days, which we were supposed to hit the low again. Where it's always the roller coaster ride. You climb so far, then you go down the hill a little bit, and you climb a little further up, and you go down the hill a bit. This round, we were supposed to be going down the hill, but it seemed to just turn right back around and keep climbing. So something took hold, right?
It's a rocket ship.
Yeah, it seems that way.
And you're seeing, you're seeing kind of the executive order that the administration put out earlier this year. While fairly tactical to departments and agencies, is starting to address this kind of expanding digital footprint and threat intelligence and public-private partnership. And so, I think it's a step in the right direction to help. But we've got a long way to go. But I think a lot of people are coming together to try to solve the problem. That's a positive thing.
Yeah, I always enjoy the collaboration on the different viewpoints, things like that. I mean, it's awesome to see a lot of people wanting to come together and have a solution to fix it. And They just come out of the woodworks. America seems to be that way all the time. It's constantly trying to figure out how to improve life. So, okay, well, Steve, it was good talking with you. So let me go ahead and say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for listening to the podcast out there. And this is New Cyber Frontier, and I'm your host, Tim Montgomery. We'll see you next round on New Cyber Frontier. Have a good one.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one truly in command of your virtual fate. Join our mailing list so we can keep you informed of breaking news and new releases. If you have an idea, if you have a question that you would like to hear answered, or if you want to get involved with our efforts, reach out to us at newcyberfrontier.com. We also encourage you to visit our sponsors' links, as they are the ones that really make this show possible. I want to thank each of you for supporting the show, and we look forward to seeing you back for the next episode of New Cyber Frontier.